have the honor and privilege to introduce our presenter for today. Again, her name is Joyce Johnson. She's an author, a speaker, a sales influencer, and business coach. And she has over 20 years of experience. She calls herself a corporatepreneur. And Joyce started her sales career in professional sports and later entered the telecommunications industry, leading to a role as a sales director in global markets and worked to deregulate both the telecommunications and energy markets. Over the years, Joyce has managed double duty as a corporate sales leader and entrepreneur, starting her first business to support professional athletes in marketing their brands. She would later become a full-time business owner and COO for the National Basketball Retired Players Association's Miami chapter, and supported other brands, including the Harris County Flood Control District, Space Center, Houston, and many others. Joyce, we're happy to have you present with us today, and you are delivering your message from another region of the United States. This has provided us, and I'll speak now of one of the effects of the pandemic and our transition from a face-to-face meeting format to a webinar series. It's provided us with opportunity to attract world-class presenters such as yourself from different areas of the United States and the world. Joyce, you have the floor, ma'am.
Why, thank you. Can't believe my team had you read all of that. Thank you. I appreciate it because I actually go through some of it myself. I said, stop sending people those long bios. But good morning, everyone. I just want to thank you for being here and being a part of the webinar series today. I tell you, you know, this topic, how to reinvent yourself, is so close to me and my heart and what I do, what I believe in, and just so many calls and strategy sections and things that I have with people that I know and people that I don't. My friends always know if they come to my house and we're having a glass of wine and they get too embedded into their thoughts of moving forward and not really doing it, I'm going to pop up a big white Post-it on the wall and I'm going to say, let's just talk about it. Let's map it out. It's time to do something different. And something that's actually on my heart this morning, if you guys will allow me, I saw a post that my team posted and I said, wow, they actually either listen or read what I say. And it was something that I said in the past. And so I have it up here on my iPad screen. It says, who I am is a question that I often ask myself when I feel most vulnerable in the midst of those hopeless and frustrating, life-changing times. And that is just what those times were. Life-changing. It was time for me to accept there was a need for a change and a turning in the season, a time for a new direction. And I believe that's a quote that I gave a publication that interviewed me, so they must have gone over something. But when I saw it this morning, it just touched me because I was preparing to have this conversation with all of you about the reinvention process. So, we all have to ask ourselves at some point in life if what we're doing still works and if it's still fulfilling in what we do. So today we're going to talk about just that. And before we hop into that, I know sometimes I like to tell people a little bit about my story because they say, who's this person that, says that, talking about reinvention, what do you know about reinventing? So I want to just share a little bit about me today. Then we're going to talk about why you need to reinvent. We're going to talk about how you take those steps to move forward. And from there, I'll share some of my platforms and things that I put out to help people be able to connect and to push through. And then we'll talk about how we can connect. So that's the agenda for today. So let's just hop in and talk about me. And Jeffrey mentioned too that 20 plus years of sales experience and leadership experience. And I say the 20 plus years, but I was thinking the other day as I was talking to my college roommate, and that has actually been like more like 30 years. And I was like, wow, did I just say that out loud? But yes, and so I was like, well, I'm going to keep the 20 years of my branding, but it's actually probably been more like 30 years. And there's been some defining times in my life when I've, sat down and had that conversation with myself about what I needed to do. I remember one was when I was in college, and um, I was leading into, I always say I was a college student that, needed money. I had to work, and sometimes I worked two jobs. And I went to my counseling section with my counselor, and they said, well, I said, I'm thinking about changing and adding some business classes to my curriculum. And they said, well, you can do that and you'll graduate on time, in the 4 years, or you can stick with the plan that you currently have and you can graduate in 3 years. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm good. Let's just go with the 3-year plan. Let me go get a job and get out of college. And, um, and then, of course, I remember when I turned 25, and I was like, I felt like that was a part of a time in my life, and says, okay, well, what am I going to do now? Am I on the path that I want to be on? And my uncle had been talking to me about moving out to California. And, so within 30 days, I was like, I'm going to move out to California. And my uncle said, well, when are you coming? I said, yeah, I'll be there next month. And he was like, really? I'm like, yeah, I'll be there next month. And so I moved to California. And then for my 30th birthday, I was, and leading into my 30th birthday, I was in California. I was like, you know what? I'm in sales and education sales. And I think that if I'm going to be in sales moving forward, I'm in California. I need to do something that they're doing in California. I was living in Sunnyvale, California at the time. So I said, I need to go into telecom. I need to go into selling computers, or, something of that along those lines. So another moment, and I went and had this, I hit every telecommunications company that was out there and trying to convince them to bring me on. And so I had applied for a job in San Jose because it was closer to Sunnyvale. And so the guy at MC, I said, well, I wanted to hire someone more experienced. He said, but you're so tenacious. He said, you're calling and you're following up and things. And I think I want to have a spot for you, but it's in San Francisco. I said, I'll take it. So then I moved across the bay to Fremont, where I could just hop on the train and go into California. So my career was going along and moving along and things, and then popped up my 40th birthday. And so, being this the 40 plus club, I was headed towards my 40th birthday. And at that time I was recently divorced, and I had to, make some decisions there. So I went and I bought a new home, first time buying a new home on my own. And I started a business, a mortgage business, because my ex-husband was in real estate and I was still in sales. And I was like, well, do I still really want to do that? Or was I just doing that for, to be a part of the team, be a good team player? And so coming along to my, I guess maybe, yeah, but right around that 40th year, I said, I've always wanted to live in Miami so I can feel semi-retired and I can wake up to the ocean in the morning. So I did another one of those 30-day moves. I was like, told my friends, I said, you know what, I've been going to Miami, having a great time. And, I'm 40 years old now. My mom and my aunts are retired at the age of 50. I don't think it's going to happen for me. So I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm moving to Miami. And so within 30 days, I had given away everything, sold it, what have you, and I moved to Miami. And so, not only have I experienced a lot of change and reinventing myself and things that I do on the professional side, but I've also done it on the personal side. And when I moved to Miami, I've been talking to people about what I would do, and I would start my own business. I would keep the business that I had because I had contracts in Houston, and I would keep the Houston contracts in business and then build on some in Miami. and there was a plastic surgeon there that needed someone to launch his marketing company. And I said, okay, I'll come and I'll do that. We negotiated a great deal. And I went and did that. And I shared a story because sometimes things aren't going to line out perfectly the way that you want them to, but you gotta make a move, right? And so 5 industries. As I mentioned, I've deregulated 2 markets, worked in 10 verticals. My career has mostly been B2B, business to business sales. I have, coached some folks on business to consumer sales. And then, as I mentioned before, with my ex-husband having a real estate company and the mortgage companies, that's B2C. But for the most part, it's been business to business. And then I founded 3 businesses. And in addition to founding 3 businesses, I've worked with many foundations. When I was in California, I was a initial founding member of the East Palo Alto Children's Foundation. So, I've worked on, Nurses Foundation and other things. And then I'm sitting in a conference, I believe I was in Chicago, and that was in 2017. And a woman, Michelle McGee, is speaking, and she's talking about being an author. And one thing that's not on my resume or my bio is that when I was in high school, I was an editor of my high school paper. I also was an editor of my college paper. And so I've always wanted to write a book. I've had some articles published, some poems published, I've written some things. And she was speaking so powerful about how her writing her book had just uplifted her, and she had to get past the fear of what her people in her company would think, and just say, they should be happy that I'm writing this book, because not only does it help my brand, it helps their brand. And I was like, yeah. And so as I'm hearing Michelle talk, and I said, I like to see people on camera when I'm speaking, because I like to be able to see what moves you. But as I'm hearing Michelle speak, all of a sudden something must have moved me, and she must have seen it. So she asked me to introduce myself. And if you guys see anything about my branding, everything says, I am Joyce Johnson. So she asked me to introduce myself. I stood up, and for the very first time, I introduced myself by saying, I am Joyce Johnson. And within really 30 days later, I had written my first book, and within 60 days, we had a book launch, and we brought it to fruition. And now I'm 6 books later, 4 books and 2 ebooks. So when I talk about reinventing myself and reinventing yourself and reinventing your brand, that's where I'm drawing from. I'm drawing from all those experiences. And I have this one thing, quote that I've said before too, is that I know what it is to be afraid and fearless at the same time. Because while I was afraid to make change in my life, I knew I had to do it. And I had to attack it in a fearless almost way. And then, if it didn't work out that one day, then I can just, as my grandmother, who we called Big Mama, would say, I can just put my head under the pillow that night and have a conversation with myself. But I know what it is. I know what it is to be afraid and to feel stuck. But I've always made the decision to move forward. And a good friend of mine has a book, Kim Lott's, is titled From Fear to Faith. So I think it's an exceptional book that she talks about how moving past that. So just wanted to share with you some things about me that maybe wasn't on the bio and that you can't Google or see on my LinkedIn page. But it just wanted to share a little bit of myself with you and my reinvention process, right? And then I talked about the different birthdays that I've had and things that I've thought. I'm not even going to talk to you about the time that the hideout I did for my 50th birthday. I was just like, no, I didn't want to have a party. I'm like, is this really happening? And yes, it was happening. And so, as I always do, I took out my big white Post-its And I mapped it out and I said, who am I going to be at 50? What does the world need from me? What can I give the world? What skill sets do I have that I can share with others? So that's a little bit about me that I want to be able to share with you about the reinventions that I've had in my life on a personal and professional level. And I hope by sharing that story that it ease some of you and know that this is something that we all can do when we need to. So, How to Reinvent Yourself. It's an ebook that I have, and I'll tell you later how to go and get it. But I want to talk to you today just about how to do that. So, when we talk about reinvention, what do you think the reinvention looks like for your life? Or do you think that you're in a need of a reinvention right now? And when I talk about reinvention, I'm saying you want to either enhance what you're currently doing, you need to refocus your whole journey, you want a different role in life, a different role in your job, or if you just want a complete overhaul. Where do you think you are? I want you guys to put in chat, and Samantha's going to tell me what you guys are saying. But where do you think you are in life in the reinvention process? Again, are we enhancing? Are we refocusing our journey? We're asking, what our skill set is and what can we offer the world? What does the world need from us right now in the space that we're in? Do we want a different role in life or in our professional life? Or do we just want a complete makeover? Where are we? Samantha, has anyone responded where they are?
Yes. So Craig said that he wants to enhance and take a different role. Jan said trying to move into for-profit after 30 years of nonprofit.
Ah,
Jan said refocus my journey. Benita said refocus and a different role. And then Jackie said a complete change.
whoa, so we got one complete change. I like it. I like it. Well, we're going to talk about some of the steps. I had a young lady asked me to go to lunch with her one day, and I mentor a lot of students, and most of the students that I've mentored are now millennials, and they're becoming leaders of the business and things. So I thought that was really, I didn't even ask what she wanted to talk about, because if she needed me, I was going to be there, right? And so we get to lunch, and she says to me, she says, Joyce, I'm at a crossroads in my career. She had been working for in the public sector and city government. And she said, I don't want to do this anymore. She said, and I've watched you over the years, and you always reinvent yourself. How do you do it? And I was like, wow, I didn't realize that was, important, that people need to process for that. So like I said, as we get ready to make our changes or reinvent ourselves, we need to ask too, not just what we need from the world, but what the world needs from us and what our skill sets are. And so from there, I said, I actually do have a process. There definitely is something that I do. I mean, when I'm getting ready to make changes in my life. So gonna share those. And what I do, as I said, I take these big white posters. I just ordered like 2 huge ones, and I stick them on my wall for all my planning and things. And first I just define what my reinvention is going to be. So I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit. And then I have this thing where I say, once we define it, we got to claim it. We got to claim it, and then we tell the world about it. And I put that part on tell the world about it because one thing I noticed about myself, and we'll go in a little detail about it, is I don't tell anyone about it until I'm ready to. And so I'm going to talk, about that too. So let's dream a little bit. Who are you in your best daydream? Let's everyone take a pause, a moment, and just think. That daydream state, I say it, is when you're up, and I do it a lot early in the morning. Like when I wake up in the morning, but I'm not really ready to get out of bed, I kind of daydream a little bit. And I say that a daydream is your soul talking to you. It's telling you where you really want to be and what you really want to do. So who are you? Where are you? What are you doing in your best daydream? And that's really important, for the reinvention process. Because when I decided to move to California, I could see myself in California. My uncle was teaching German studies at Stanford, so he thought I was going to come and go to grad school. I had other plans. So, when I moved to Miami, I could see myself in Miami, right? When I went into telecom, I could see myself in sales, and I saw myself as a superstar salesperson, although I didn't know what telecom was really about in detail. And I sold my first deal, for a very large deal, before I even knew or understood what my product was. So who are you in your best daydream? Would anyone like to share? Pop in the chat. Just one or two people like to share who they are or where you are in your best daydream. Because at this point in my life, I'm going to share that I wanted to feel semi-retired, right? My favorite role in life is Aunt Joyce. I have a 16-year-old niece upstairs right now on a computer doing her schoolwork. She's been with me for a few days. I have my 7-year-old niece here for a week, and have a 17-year-old niece and a 24-year-old niece. And I like to be flexible and available to accommodate them whenever they want me to. And so for me, that's like, okay, that's part of my being semi-retired. Yes, I work. Yes, I have engagements and things, but also I can manage my schedule in most cases. And so when a 7-year-old was here and she wanted to go play tennis and things, I can make that happen. So who are you? Samantha, did anyone share?
Nothing has come through yet.
Okay, that's okay. I'll let you guys think about it a little bit, but please write that down and think about, because I believe that we've all had a daydream. Maybe we thought we were awake, but I don't think we were awake fully, right? So when you talk about your reinvention and claiming your reinvention, like they said, everything, preparation is key, right? So once you think about your daydream and who you are, where you want to be in that daydream, now we need to prepare for it. And what does that mean? We need to ask why. And then once we ask why, we need to ask why again. So why do I want to, be semi-retired? And then when I answer that, well, why is that important? And then when I answer that, I'm going to ask myself, well, why, why or how is that going to fulfill me? What purpose does it serve? Because I really think when we get to a certain stage in life, at least for myself, that, and I chuckle all the time. I tell people, my sister never believed that I say this. There just comes a time in life, and hopefully for some people it comes sooner than later, where you really have to focus more on your purpose over the profit. Purpose
And we
or
actually got
profit.
some, I was
Yes?
about to say, we got some responses to your initial question.
Okay.
So Craig shared that he really want to become a semi-professional bowler and possibly becoming a chef.
Okay.
And then Jian said, working for the betterment of an organization, helping others, and eventually learning to cook professionally.
Yes.
Gaddafi said, I would like to be retired, but working from home is the next best thing.
It certainly is. I've worked from home for many, many years, and I've had a heavy travel schedule. And so now I'm working from home and I don't have the heavy travel schedule. I'm sure that will change sometimes, but at working from home is definitely, yeah. It is the next best thing. Thank you. So Samantha, type in the chat, purpose over profit, because I think it's important that when you're thinking about your next steps in life, especially when you're wanting to do things in a creative, right? When you're wanting to be creative. And kudos, Craig, to bowling. My mom, I remember when we were growing up, she had her own shoes and bag and everything, and she would take us kids, and we have our little lunches packed, and she would go and bowl and everything. And we just thought my mom was everything because she did that, right? And then my dad would pick us up and, take us home after we'd had our snacks. He'd cook us dinner and stuff so mom can bowl. Um, so especially when you're doing creative, sometimes the creative things, I have a friend that's a chef, and she decided on being a personal chef for families and things, and it's provided a good living for her. But initially she was having to take on clients and go and cook food for them, and she had just a lot of different clients. She would go into their homes every day. So especially when you're doing something in a creative and you're doing something in that volunteer space, that nonprofit space, sometimes it may not pay as well as, what we've done in corporate. But we've got to decide, and we have to prepare for that as well, right? The financial piece is a huge piece. We need to understand how we're going to provide for ourselves, how we're going to supplement that income, what we're going to do, financially, if we're going to go ahead and pay down the house or the mortgage or what have you, what are we going to do? For me, I called my financial guy and I said, well, if I needed to have a piece of my interest of my retirement fund paid to me some monthly, what would that look like if I needed that to supplement my income? Right? So think about all those things. But preparation, when you're preparing, you want to really understand your why. And you want to get as detailed into your why as possible. And then, as we said in journalism, I mentioned you guys, I was a journalism student. Who, what, when, where, why, and how come? You need to answer all of those. And I'm also going to share with you several times during this conversation, while you're preparing for your reinvention and working on it, you don't need to talk to people about it. You don't need anyone's opinion about this process other than your own at this time. There's so much research out there on the computer that can give us things. We can talk to, if you go right now on LinkedIn, Craig, and you find a professional bowler, you find 5 of them or what have you, or on their Instagram or other social media platforms, you send them an email that you're interested in that and you'd like to talk to them. I guarantee you at least one of them are going to be willing to set aside 30 minutes and have a conversation with you about the industry. So who you're going to go and seek out are people that are already doing what you want to do. So part of your research when you're going you're going to go on the internet, you're going to get that information, but then you're also going to go talk to someone who's already doing it. I heard, I think it was Jeffrey said how you're going to be preparing you guys for LinkedIn and getting profiles and things of that nature. I have a realtor that was on my webinar show last week. He said, focus on your relationship currency. And those relationships through LinkedIn, the people you really don't know, or Twitter, the people you really don't know, but they're where you're watching them because they're where you want to be. Reach out to those people, watch what they do, understand what the steps that they're taking. But we have to prepare. That's the first part of our reinvention. First of all, we're having to, define it. Did I go past my thing? Yeah, define it first and understand our why, right? So why, who, what, when, where, why, and how come. And focus on your purpose over profit. One thing that the millennials and Generation Z has been doing a lot better than us baby boomers and Gen X is they have been focusing on their purpose. And if you offer them a job and it doesn't fulfill their purpose, they're not going to accept it. And we've accepted those jobs because we've been taught and told that we need to go to school and then we need to get a job in this field and we need to stay there forever and we need to retire from that job doing that thing. And companies just aren't loyal to us in a way that the world works right now is not set up or designed a lot of times for that to happen. So as companies are planning to reinvent themselves and they're putting out new products and going to business and market a different way, we have to look at our brand and ourselves. We are our company. And we have to redefine our why, and we have to say what we're going to do and how we're going to get there and continue to re-enhance ourselves. So first part of your reinvention is understanding your why, defining your why. And when you get that to that point, why, and answer it over and over and over for yourself, go into your research mode, research everything that you need on the internet, go talk to someone who's already doing it and living it and where you want to be, because now it's time to also begin building new relationships, right? And so a lot of people say, oh, you got to leave your old friends behind or whatever. I'm not an advocate of that, right? Because I feel that my friends are having their own reinvention. We're just reinventing in a different way. And eventually we're all going to talk about that. And my best friend from 6th grade, we're on 2 different scales of the spectrum in most times. But if I'm having a bad day, I can go to her house and I can get on her sofa, put a throw over me, turn the TV to whatever station I want. Her husband's going to run out and get my snacks because he knows what I like to snack on. So you got to hold on to those relationships as well, because they feed our soul. Every relationship in our life have a purpose. But what I am saying to you is that you do have to start building some new relationships, and so that you can be around like-minded people and people who are doing the things that you want to do, people who are trying to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. And you make a list of those people and you keep in touch with them. You do touch points with them, once a month or what have you. Even if it's once a quarter, you keep touch with them. So define your why is the first part that you need to decide. Then, I'm sorry, I was on the wrong screen, but we go into our preparation and planning. And that preparation and planning is about that research that I talked about. Understanding the market, understanding what it pays, understanding what you're going to need to take care of yourself, understanding and putting the timeline in place, because it's still in dream state until you put a timeline in place. So I'm going to ask you now, in a perfect world, when would you like to see your reinvention happen? Are you looking for a 90-day reinvention, a 1 year to reinvent yourself? I want you to put a timeline on when you want your reinvention to happen. So pop in chat, because until you write it down and you actually see it and you have a visual, a lot of times it's hard to move forward with things. So you may have already started the process, and now you're just going to go and say, oh, well, Joyce mentioned a couple more things I need to look at, right? So Samantha, where are we in our reinvention? Are we setting 90-day goals?
Here we
120 days?
have, Jackie said within 6 months to a year.
6 months to a year. That's a good time frame. It's a good time frame, 6 months to a year. But keep in mind during that 6 months to a year, Jackie, that you're going to have to keep going back and look at the market, because things change so fast right now. And with this new norm that we have in this virtual space, you're going to have to keep going back and saying, okay, are things still the same? What has changed about that industry? What has changed about that market? And how I need to go to it. So make sure you're checking and adjusting in your planning. Okay, because 6 months to a year used to be the short term. And now things are moving so fast. I mean, if you guys just think about how fast things have moved through COVID, how fast people have had to shift. Let's look at the 40+ organization. Jeffrey, Craig, those guys, they had to start from, you guys were having in-person meetings. Jeffrey, were most of your meetings and things in person prior to COVID?
Oh, yes. Over the decades, our meetings were weekly, and they were face-to-face. And in the heart of downtown Washington, about 3 blocks from the White House.
Okay.
With that said, we transitioned very swiftly to a webinar format in light of the effects of the pandemic. And
Yes.
the unexpected consequence, unintended one that is that we increased our participation by 250%.
Yes. I can imagine, because now and let's just say that's all happened like 8 months or so, right? Because I know that we were going to have an event in the Bahamas in June, and we had to make it a virtual event. So think about that. Think about how fast the organization, and most organizations you're affiliated with, even the church. I was telling my mom how you go to your church that you go to, and you're like, well, I would like to go visit some other people, but I really get a chance. And now you can just go on Facebook and visit 3 in one day. Right? So
Good point.
everyone's had to pivot really fast and change. So what I'm saying is, you know, yes, 3 to 6 months, what have you, or 6 months to a year is normally a short term, but now it almost seems long in the big scheme of things and what's taking place and what we're having, right?
Agreed.
Yes. So you guys may have to mute someone, because I heard someone has some background going on. So, but yeah, so just look at the organization and what they've had to do. So in your preparation and planning, and you got to put a timeline on it. And I want you guys to put a timeline on it now, because as I said, it's still a dream until we put a timeline on it and we know that we're going to work on that timeline. And then once you have that timeline, I want you to begin to work backwards. So if you're saying a year, because it takes a year to get a certain certification, I want you to say, okay, in that year I have my certification. And then I want you to do the things that you need to lead up to get there, so that you can be prepared to go in that year. If that's, you need to build a website, you need to build your social presence, you need to make so many contacts a day. In the sales world where I came from, in order to get the amount of sales we want, we used to say we have to make 100 calls a day in the beginning. 100 calls a day. And at 100 calls a day would get us 20 appointments. And that 20 appointments in that week would get us 5 opportunities to put in our funnel to sell. And then if you're lucky and you had a closing ratio of 20%, which mine was a little higher, you're at least going to close 20% of that business in that week. So that's how I want you guys to think. You start at that end date that you have for yourself. And if that's a certification, if that's being approved by the bowling league, Craig, whatever, whatever that is, I want you to start there. And then I want you to work backwards to the things that you need to do to make that happen. So that when that day happens, you're ready to go, right? When that day happens, if you want to be an author, right, in this time frame, you don't wait until you write your book to start putting out your social media. You start announcing yourself beforehand. So if your book is going to be available in 60 days, you're going to start kind of throwing ththings out there like my team did. And, and I do plan to write another book this year, but they need to get out of my head. They're in my head right now. So you have to put those things out there before and prepare before, so that, you have your big announcement and people already really know who you are and they're connecting with you. Okay. And another part of you claiming your reinvention is just the word I just said, making that connection. You have to connect with you first. I always recommend that everyone take some time for self. And I know we can't go anywhere right now. Normally I would say go somewhere. But if that's just spending, 90 minutes by yourself a day and really being able to reflect and think, and I always keep a notebook by my side. I've jotted down some things being on this call. Spend some time with yourself. And begin to listen to your inner self. And that can be scary. but do it anyway. Does anyone have any questions right now at this point in the presentation? Is there anyone right now in their reinvention stage that feel like you're a little stuck, or you haven't moved forward to where you are and you need some help and you're willing to talk about it? I don't see a lot of faces on here too. I like to see faces. I got up this morning, got dressed for you guys. I had a wardrobe change. I had to put this red lipstick on, and I'm not saying, and I like to see faces.
We actually just had a question come in.
Yes.
Benita asks, how much time should we spend with ourselves to listen to our inner self?
You know, the yoga specialists and meditators and things always say spend, at least a half an hour a day with yourself. I say when you're in a reinvention stage, for me, at least an hour, right? But, and then I say, 90 minutes is a push. So spend that 90 minutes, right? Because I understand right now, that's hard to come by unless you live by yourself, right? If you got the kids at home right now and then the spouse is at home and things, that hour or 90 minutes of time is like, letting everyone know, maybe after everyone go to bed or maybe before everyone gets up. But I think that you should give that to yourself, because I think what you'll realize once you do that is that you're going to create a calm in your spirit. You're going to build your confidence. You're going to build clarity in your mind. You're going to be able to take some good notes. Things are going to come to you that you haven't been able to really process or think about. And you're going to be able to dive into some detail that you haven't been able to get into before. So it's really important to take that time for yourself. It's really important to do that for you. And it's important to the success of your reinvention. And if you can't do it every day, then say, I'm going to do it on these particular days, and then communicate that to the people around you, that you need that time. Communicate that to them and ask them to allow you to be in that space. My little 7-year-old niece, she knows her mom's schedule and her dad's schedule. So she has everything. And she even has her own breakfast schedule. And she wakes up, she has her quiet time. She woke up and she came and got in my bed, and then she had her iPad. I had the iPad ready for her. I said, you want your iPad? She's like, no, I just want a little quiet time right now. I was like, oh, okay, really? I swear she's been here before. I know she has. But then she has the time she wants to walk. She has the time she wants to have her snacks. She has the time she wants to have a lunch. And, she knows that she has to be quiet during these hours because that's when her mom and dad's working at home. So then she asked me, Aunt Joyce, do I need to be quiet during these times because you're working? So just share that with the family and let them know that that's what you need from them. And take that time for yourself to get that clarity that you need to fill your own spirit and prepare for your reinvention.
Joyce, we also have Jackie asking or noting that she feels a little stuck.
Okay. So Jackie, I'm going to try to find Jackie on my screen so I can feel like I'm looking at her while we're talking. So Jackie, do you know what it is you want to do?
Hi there.
Hi, Jackie.
I do know that my overall career goal is to own my own business, particularly a media production company. I think for me, it's like that process or that journey to take those steps to get there, where I have a lot of roadblocks that come up.
Yeah.
And then I have other interests as well, which people have suggested to combine it. with the business that I'm building, but I really want to, I feel like I need to focus on one thing at a time versus having all these different things coming at me at once.
I agree. I agree. You need to focus on one thing at a time. So I can tell you, this early in the year, I put it in place last year, but I launched a new company, Y Sales Network. And that's, you know, before then, my brand, I was still in corporate, and it was I Am Joyce Johnson brand. And people would try to push me to do different things. Right now, people want me to do a TV show. I'm not there, right? I wanted to be in media since I was 15, 16 years of age. But I know now at this point in my business that it would take a lot for me and I'm not there. I need to let my team get to where, you know, we figured out really well what we're doing, and we're servicing the market of people, the audience of people where we are now, right? So our webinars are stronger now, and I feel that they, you know, we can pop a webinar up and people are going to just come to it, right? Our sales conference, people are interested in attending next year. So I want to build those things and make sure they're strong before I add something else.
Right.
So what I always say, the one thing AT&T taught me as a leader in the global space there is that to focus on my core and outsource everything else, right? So that's what I do. I focus on my core and who I am. I have team members to focus on the things that they specialize in. But what I will say, when I've found before, because I have found other businesses, that you have to really focus in on that core. And yes, everyone says now you have to have a mix of things. I wouldn't market a mix of things. People are going to come to you for a mix anyway. You agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Right. So I have, you know, because I've worked in diversity, inclusion, and corporate, you know, as vice president last year, people come to me now and ask me to consult them for that. I don't market that, right? But people are, once they see your brand and, you know, in your company, your business, and start seeing your background, they're going to say, well, Jackie, yeah, I know you're doing this, but I notice you also have a skill set there too. Can you do an add-on? Then you add on, but just focus on that core. I want to also, I heard you say roadblocks. What are the roadblocks?
Well, like, for example, starting businesses, and people have always, you know, talk about writing business plans to get business loans. Well, that's an issue for me about picking up more debt while I'm paying off student loans. So I'm not really keen on the idea of picking up additional debt in that capacity. So that's where another thing is. It's like, well, how do you find ways to fund a business that isn't a loan?
Well, you know, this is a great time to start a business, right? I think it's a really great time to start a business. I've been doing a couple of business pitches, and I won a $10,000 grant from a company for pitching an idea that I had to do a college tour for my business. Right now, there are a lot of grants, you know, there's a lot of grants out there right now because people are trying to save the small business. Some of them are going to say, well, you've had to be in business for so long, but there are some things for startup, and there are some things for startup in technology. You know, you just go and Google it. Be very specific with your Google, because Google can give you a lot of junk sometimes. So, you know, my mom always say, ask to Google. So ask to Google, but you have to be very specific in what your ask is. And you may have to ask several ways, but you will be able to find those grants and things. But I'm also going to say to you, there's no reward without the risk. And you have to be willing to invest in yourself to make it happen. So I'm going to share with you guys another story that when I left corporate last year, I really didn't intend to leave corporate to the end of this year. But I was in corporate and talking to one of my sales leaders. You know, a friend of mine has this thing. She says, don't be where you tolerate it, be where you celebrate it. And I wasn't feeling celebrated at the time. I've been number one in the year 2017, number one 2018, 2019 last year. I just closed a $10 million deal, and I'm having a conversation with a leader who's complaining about, you know, a gap in another area. And we were going back and forth on it and, you know, having meetings and different things. I didn't feel like, you know, they had my back, right? Or really was being supportive. So at that time, I just said, you know what? I got home one day and I called my finance guy. I looked at some of my own things. I looked at my mortgage and my interest rates and my debt and all those other things. And I, better than anyone, know not to start a business with your own money, right? And so but I did. I had a couple of folks that was already on my payroll that I was paying out of my salary. And I just decided to jump, you know, and I'd already decided in my mind. I've been writing things down, like I told you guys, sharing with you guys, whiteboarding it. And then when I went back to work, you know, well, I worked virtually, but we had that another call, and it was about the same thing. And I just said, you know what does a package look like for me? Let's do that. And I decided to make an investment in myself, and not just an investment in myself, but an investment in other people, because what I do in the service and the business that I have is very service oriented, right? And I know that it's going to come back to me. And I can tell you, I can share with you now, there's been so many opportunities out there for grants and things like that, that I still haven't had to pay myself a salary out of my business. I chose not to do that this year, but I've been able to pay all of my people, and I have more than enough money now before touching my own money to pay them through next year. So go find the money. It's only a roadblock when you say it is. I want you to write down roadblock, and then I want you to scratch through it. Any other questions come through?
Yes.
Did that sound?
So,
and back to Jackie, did that answer it? Did that do it for you?
Yeah.
You think you can go find?
Yeah, I'm gonna look today. I'm gonna start today. Yeah.
Jump. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Connect to me. Send me an email. I would love to have a talk with you. You know, we can put time on my calendar. I know a lady that has a business and what you want to do. And right now she's producing that new show, Girlfriend Chat.
Oh.
So, you know, you can make some connections, like I said, to some people that's doing what you want to do. And so reach out to me on LinkedIn and let's connect.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else out there?
So actually, Gaddafi is asking, should you contact the person that's in your
Contact the person who?
contact the person that's in your prospective industry before you begin your reinvention?
You can, but I don't want, so here's the thing, you can contact that person, and even if you contact that person and they've had a few bad experiences or what have you, I don't want you to make your decision based on that person. If it's what you want to do, I want you just to go do it, right? Because everyone isn't going to have the same experience. So I would say, no, you don't have to contact them before you start. A lot of times people contact people before they start because they're looking for something. You're secretly looking for something negative to be said so that you don't have to jump. So once you're already, you know, decide is what you want to do, then you just contact that person, you know, during your process or whenever. I don't want you to contact that person to look for an out, because that person may be having a bad day. And you know what? And you should be grateful, thankful if someone shares the good and the bad and the ugly of the industry with you. You want to know that, but it should not deter you from moving forward. It should not stop you from moving forward with your reinvention.
I think what I was getting at is if you contact someone who's already in the industry and they ask you, well, what have you done so far? What steps have you taken thus far to move into this industry? And you say, well, none. This is my first step. You know, I don't want to waste the person's time. So
Yeah.
that's why I was saying, should I at least begin something before I contact them? Or
Well, you can, but you can also answer that question by saying, I haven't started, you know, I haven't moved far along in it, but here are some of my transferable skills and here's my why.
Okay.
Yes. Here's my transferable skills and here's my why. Is my why big enough? You know, here's why I want to do this.
Got it.
But yeah, great point, Dale, because someone may ask you that. And you know what, and to your point also, always have a list of questions that you want to ask the person. Now, the conversation may flow different ways once you're in a conversation, but always be prepared, be respectful of that person's time, know what you're going to talk about. Send them a mini agenda and say, here are some of the questions that I want to ask you. Now, once you guys start having a great conversation, the road may wind a little bit, but always be prepared.
Got it. Thank you.
We have another question, Joyce. It's from
Yes.
Benita, and she asks, should people do informational interviews? If so, with how many people?
I would say 2, maybe 3 max. 3 max, right? And I would also, in my process, I would look at someone who's where I am in the process, will probably last. I will look at someone who's been doing it for many years and maybe someone that's in the middle. I want to ask them about best practices. The person that's, or maybe the person that's newly started would be the best person to ask about processes and certifications and things of that nature, because they've just done it and they'll know if there's been any industry changes that's required for you. The person that's in the middle, I would ask about, what it took to get to that point and that hump, because you guys all know that a lot of business fell within the first 3 to 5 years. So if they're already at that 3 to 5 year mark in their industry or in that job role or what have you, because even when people start a new job, right, or a new role in a new industry, if they will decide fast if it doesn't work for them, right? And they'll immediately convert back to what they were doing before. And then that person that has that longevity can give you some true successes. And they're going to be honest with you. They're going to say it's not easy, but here's what you can do. I also want you to keep in mind that just because you're starting a business, because or starting something new, doesn't mean easy, right? What I'm doing right now isn't easy. I work a lot of hours, I put the 16-year-old to bed last night, and then I did some work. I also came down to my office yesterday and sent videos to my team. I'm in school, so I did my classwork. And I forgot the season of food that I need to cook for today. So I want you to be prepared to push through. And I don't want you to think for a minute that it's going to be easy. You may have your days, but I want you to push through. So next on the reinvention. So you defined what it is you want to do. You defined your why, and you know why you want to do it, right? And you claimed it to be your own. That you claimed it to be your own. You went through your preparation. You went through your planning. You claimed it to be your own. So now you're going to just go out there and you're going to punch the roll in the face with it, right? And you're going to be bold about it. I want you to make an announcement, even if it's a new job. I want you to have a party. We gave my brother a virtual retirement party. It was amazing, right? And we sent him gifts that, had him dropped off at his house before. Everyone did a round table, said what they were going to say and things. I want you to tell the world, I want you to have a lunch. If it's a business, I want you to lead up to a lunch of the day that your business is going to start. I want you to give little secret nuggets out on social media and on, and things, and tell people what's coming. And then it's okay to start telling people about it, right? And remember, when those people say, oh, well, do you really think about that? Is that going to work for you? Whatever. It's not their dream. It's not their why. It's not their journey. It's your journey. So what you say to them is, oh, that is really great. I appreciate your thoughts on that. And, and if it's some valuable information, you write it down, you take a note. Thank you for your feedback. And when you're going through your journey, I hope to be able to support you as well. and you keep going, because people, and sometimes the people that are closest to us would be our biggest people that say, when we hit them with this, they're going to say, oh, really? And really, they're just going to say it because they haven't been a part of the process for the most part. You know, I remember when I wrote my first book and I was at my mom's house in Galveston, and I'm talking to my aunt, and I was like, yeah, because I'm going to have this book launch. And my mom's like, I didn't know you were writing a book. I was like, oh yeah, Mom, I'm writing the book. I wrote it already. So I want, at that point, once you have everything, you have your why, right? You defined it, you have your why, you understand why you're doing it. And then you go through the preparation process of, you know, you claim that you've done your research, your homework, you got your certifications, you dotted your I's, you crossed your T's. Then I just want you to be bold about it, right? And I want you to take it to the world. And, you know, and sometimes we forget a big part of our reinvention is ourselves as well. You know, we have to create our whole look and our whole energy and our whole brand and what we do. Don't forget that part of it, right?
Yeah.
My
Joyce, you're
sister-in-law,
raising,
what's that?
you know, I said you're raising very key points. You know, in reinventing yourself, as you've emphasized in the beginning, you can't tell any and everyone about your dream, what you're seeking to achieve. You,
Right.
you know, you link with those people who are moving in the same direction as yourself. You conduct those informational interviews and adapt. That is, adopt best practices, and you learn by doing, and perseverance is certainly the key. And as my late grandmother was fond of saying, if you're going to make it in life, you go with those people who are getting on to the jet plane. Okay, don't settle for sitting on the turtle.
Okay. Don't settle for sitting on the turtle. Love it. I'm going to share something. I had one of those experiences last week where someone who was fairly close to me called and just kept making these little comments, like, you know, and they weren't positive of, you know, about my journey and what I'm doing and what have you. And I shared with my mom how hurtful that it was, and during a conversation. And so my mom sent me this text yesterday, and it says, remember what God has for you, it's for you. Be careful who you share your dreams with, because people respond differently to your dreams than they do to theirs. Everybody is not happy about your potential success. Just because God is blessing you does not mean that everybody is going to share your success. Continue to look up and have a blessed day. My mom just sent that to me yesterday. Everyone is not going to be able to share in your success. So when you go out there and you're bold, and I always, you know, how they say, if you look good, you feel good, right? So when you launch your event, I'm, you know, and I'm always in these suit jackets, my team, they're like, Joyce, what, this is just me. This is what makes me comfortable. This is what makes me feel fearless. This is what makes me feel like I'm ready. This is part of my game face. My red lipstick and a blazer is a part of my game face. I don't change up jewelry a lot. I don't change up hair a lot or anything. But something that's been consistent in my life, if you go and look at a picture of me on the football field during homecoming, my senior year of high school as a photographer, I have on a suit. So whatever it takes for you to be there, don't forget your outer part as well as your inner. It's not as important as your inner, but it is important. You know, and I know those people say, you say, always look like you're going somewhere. So my sister-in-law was applying for a job. She wanted to get a promotion at work. She had never been getting promoted, right? She had a conversation with someone and was saying that it was a VP role that was going to be up in the next 6 months or whatever. She's really interested. And they're like, you know, I just don't see VP when I look at you. Imagine that. Imagine someone saying, I don't see VP when I look at you, because in corporate, especially if you're looking to move around in corporate, there's something called executive presence. Everyone's shaking their head. I see you. You guys know what I'm talking about. Executive presence. You got to look like you belong at the table. You got to look like you're going to handle business, and it feeds your energy. But he told my sister-in-law that, they told her, you don't look like VP. So my sister-in-law went on one of those apps, Nordstrom's, everyone has them, where they get your body type, they see what your size is and things like that. And she started letting those people send her clothes and things, and dressing her, told them what her goals were and what have you. And she changed her whole dress. She's one of those ladies that doesn't shop. Every handbag she has, owns my brother's purchased it for her. She doesn't, And so she started letting those people dress her. She's a vice president now. She did some other things too. She started working and training herself on speaking and not being as shy at the table when she's at the table. But I can tell you, she shared with me after she got the job that they told her, you look like a VP. So when you hit the ground running, be bold about it. Tell everyone about it. Own it. Own it. Own it. Own it. Be bold. Be fearless. And there's going to be some times when, yes, you're going to feel afraid. And as I mentioned earlier, sometimes you got to be afraid and fearless at the same time. You got to dig really deep, like I tell my nieces, and put your game face on every day and be bold about it. If there's ever a time for reinvention, the time is now. No matter what our ages are, no matter what our backgrounds are, our education levels, what we do, if there is ever a time for reinvention, the time is now. Because we all have information, talents, and resources that people need, and they can get it from us. I talk to millennials all the time, and yes, they, think they know it all, but they really, after they talk to me, they're like, oh, Miss Joyce. I'm like, when did I become Miss Joyce? But yes, they say, oh, Miss Joyce. So the world needs us. They need what we bring to the table. They need what we have to offer. And if there's ever a time to be a consultant, have a business or what have you, because people are looking for answers and direction and to be their best selves, the time is now. So when you're thinking about what you want to do and your why, make sure it serves a purpose and that you're thinking of purpose over profit. I think I saw something ping up, Samantha. Did someone else put something in chat?
Yes, so maybe it's just commentary, sort of building off what you said, but Benita said, thank you so much for this presentation. I am a third-time presenter for 40 Plus and in the process of putting together a list of resources. I recommend checking out Reinvent Yourself by James Altucher. I have to get ready for work for a conference call. Craig said, just for the job you want, not the one you have.
Uh-oh, Samantha, I'm losing you. Okay. Well, again, the 3 key steps: define your reinvention, claim it.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you better now. Yes, you're back in.
Craig said, dress for the job you want.
Why every time she said Craig? Craig, what did you say?
And
There we go. I said dress.
Jeffrey.
Oh, I'll finish. Dress for the
Meet
job
her.
you want, not the one you have.
Okay, great. All right. And what did you say, Jeffrey?
I stated that fame and fortune favor the bold.
Fame and fortune favor the bold.
Virtual life, right? We just experienced virtual life. Yes, yes. Thank you guys for making those comments. Virtual life. So one thing that I want to, if I have a takeaway with you guys on this, I've added to all of my presentations, is the importance of virtual awareness. There's been a shift in business. We're not going back. There is a new norm. There are companies that I've talked to in the medical field, the technology field, the supply chain, that have said they are all have gathered together best practices that they've had to make adjustments to during COVID, that they realized that they could do their business better and faster, streamline, and better support their customer base. And so they're not going to go back. So I want everyone to really work on building your virtual awareness, because in the future you will interview for a job virtually, you will do your training virtually, as we're all experiencing now. Sales are going to be done virtually. Closing business is going to be done virtually. So begin to build on your virtual awareness. Sign up for as many of these webinars as you possibly can. I listen to, I sign up for different webinars, and I do my platform a couple every week so that I can gather information and see what's going on. Have to be able to continue in your learning, but build on your virtual awareness, because there is a new norm. There's been a business shift. And if you're going to be a part of it and be successful in your reinvention, you have to accept that. Right now, I want everyone to say to themselves, as my mother would say, I receive it. So you have to accept that. It is a new norm, a business shift, and we have to build our virtual awareness. Kudos to everyone that's on this call and that have been doing Zoom and recordings and things of that nature. But we're going to have to do more to make sure that we stay aligned with what's taking place moving forward. Also, as I mentioned, I launched Wise Sales Network. We have a program called The Oval, and it's the oval because we say when you expand your circle, you have an oval. So visit our website at www.wisesalesnetwork.com. When you join the Oval, you're going to get a free download of my ebook, How to Reinvent Yourself. You're also going to get a free download of my book, The Top 5 Interviewing Tips, Get a Job Today, 5 Things You Need to Know. And that book talks about things that we want to see in corporate when people come on to work. We're tired of people showing up with their ID and their Social Security card. We want everyone to have a plan. It was written for my college babies, but everyone can learn and benefit from it. So when you sign on to the Oval, you're going to get the 2 free downloads of those books. You'll have access to all of the webinars that we've hosted this year and all of our future webinars, and also a special edition of our Meet the Recruiter that we've done in the past. If you are looking for work, we will continue to have the Meet the Recruiters, where we're going to bring on organizations who are hiring. And what we do is 3 hours. We prepare you, give you some tidbits on tips or what have you the first hour. We have someone to inspire you the second hour. And then the third hour, we have recruiters from other companies that you can talk to about work. So go over to Wise Sales Network and join the Oval, and you'll have those. And just here are some of the things that we offer. We do our webinar series. We have our sales conference. We're going to do a student conference. So hopefully you guys can support the student conference if you're interested in speaking or working with students. I'm a huge advocate of college students and that college market. Last year I started teaching at the community college level, and it really taught me some things that are different from the university level. And so the student conference is going to be different because I want to, my audience is going to be that community college student and fulfilling the gaps and needs that they need. Again, I am Joyce Johnson, author, speaker, sales champion, business coach, and founder of Wise Sales Network. I hope you've enjoyed my presentation. Here's ways you can contact me. And as I always say, make it a great day. If we have any more questions, or if you guys have any asks of me, pop it in the chat. And you can always contact me via email or through LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn more, on my personal LinkedIn. My team manages a lot of my other areas, but I'm always open to have a conversation with someone and be able to share. So, feel free to connect. Samantha, is there anything else out there I need to respond to, or?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, well then I'm going to pass it back over to Jeffrey. Thank you guys, the 40 Plus. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this. I hope it was beneficial that, they always say if you touch one person in a room, but hope someone got some takeaways that you can take with you and that it'll help you be able to move forward, because this is a new norm and we're going to have to push ourselves a little bit to get there. So again, make it a great day. Jeffrey.
Joyce, thank you so much for putting forward a world-class presentation, a very strong message. And I encourage all of our participants that if you're not already connected with Joyce on LinkedIn, to put in that request ASAP and to follow her. Joyce is a perfect example of how to effectively use LinkedIn to attract others to you in promoting your goals and objectives. And Joyce, you're certainly serving a public good in communicating a very positive and substantive message to our 40 plus audience, or for that matter, to your audience nationwide. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for participating in today's weekly Monday webinar sponsored by 40 Plus of Greater Washington. Have a great week.